Hello and welcome back to Language, Culture, and Dr. Lou. This video is going to be quite different than most of my videos because, as you know, if you're a subscriber or if you've seen my videos before, they're always about language or culture as reflected by language. And so this one is going to be a little off-brand for the channel. Why is that? Because this is my reaction video to a column that came out in Albany's local newspaper, the Times Union, on Saturday, March 1st of this year. And the reason I want to, I guess, react to this is that Lukee Forbes, the ex-con who's running for city council for Ward 3 in Albany. Well, we call it in Albany the Common Council, but same basic thing, city council. Um, he is one of the three criminals who's responsible for giving me my brain injury in 2010. And so the guy has given me permanent injury and permanent disability and completely derailed my life. And now he wants to collect paycheck from the city for representing us. I'm really offended by that, and shame on the Working Families Party for backing him anyway. And I will get to that more too. So along the way, yeah, I will be telling you how I got my brain injury and the impacts it's had on my life, in hopes that any Ward 3 voters in Albany will decide to vote against this guy so as not to disrespect all the victims of violent crimes here in Albany, of which there are many. The city is not exactly known for being the safest place. There's a lot of violent crimes, so there are many other victims like me, and I feel it would be disrespectful to forget about all of us and elevate a perpetrator of one of said violent crimes into a position of public office. Anyway, so here we go. I will try not to get too emotional. I'll try to keep myself composed, but this is not a comfortable topic for me. And so again, on Saturday, March 1st of this year, in the Times Union, there was a column that came out by Chris Churchill. He's a columnist who's been writing for the paper for a while. And he entitled it Lukee Forbes' Candidacy Tests the Limits of Forgiveness. And so the Black Lives Matter activist, released from prison in 2018, is running for a seat on the Albany Common Council. And so he has become a local figure, a local public figure. In fact, I think that's what he calls himself on his Facebook page, but he's running for office. So he's jumped into local politics. And even before this, he became a pretty prominent activist in the Black Lives Matter movement after the death of George Floyd. And this is the guy I'm talking about. This is Lukee Forbes. Here, this is a picture of him speaking at a press conference outside the Capitol. And this is one of the reasons I don't want him in public office. Is every single time I have to see his picture in the paper, hear his name, or see him being interviewed on the news or anything, I got re-triggered. And yeah, it's pretty traumatic, and that only sort of adds to the post-traumatic stress that I live with every single day. So let's move on to the text of the article. So again, like I said, he is running for Common Council with the backing of the Working Families Party. And so the fact that they endorsed him has raised some eyebrows, such as mine, of course. And I love what the woman who's the common counselor in that seat right now said about this. She's the Ward 3 common counselor and common council member rather, and she said it doesn't make sense to me and it shouldn't make sense to them. You know what you did to that person, right? And that person being me, of course. And I want to say thank you to Joyce Love for not forgetting me, for caring about, well, not disrespecting what, yeah, me or what happened to me. And here's a little of the story. So Forbes, he was involved in the brutal beating of me. I redacted my name and the school where I teach and all that, but well, just call me Lou because you guys already know me as Lou. And he was involved in a brutal beating of me um, when I was just on my way home from Albany's 2010 Gay Pride celebration. So it was near Washington Park, actually, is where this crime happened. I was on my way home from, well, that area anyway. And so I was beaten beyond recognition. I mean, beaten from head to toe, bruises, cuts, scrapes, broken bones, sprains, all of this all over my body. And they left me for dead. Luckily, I was not too far away from the hospital, I guess. I've got angels looking over me or something. Um, and they had to put me in a medically induced coma right after that because my brain was actually bleeding um, inside my skull, which was causing unsafe and unhealthy amount of pressure in the skull cavity and all that. And well, the whole putting me in a coma was part of how they kept me alive and kept me from getting even further brain damage than I had already sustained. And so Forbes, he was only 15 at the time. Actually, I think it was 8 days, but for his 16th birthday. And ironically, it was within 3 weeks of when I was about to turn 31 at the time. So we have birthdays not too far away from each other, just, about 15 years apart. Um, and so what he did, and as his role in this was he actually supplied a tree limb. Um, he's the one who got the tree limb that the other two guys used to beat me down from head to toe. So he is very, very directly responsible for my brain injury and all the consequences of that. And I'm not gonna, yeah, get into all the details about that. But anyway, he was convicted of first degree assault and robbery and sentenced to 3 1/3 to 10 years in prison. And he got out in 2018, so he did not serve the full amount, and we'll get a little bit more into that a little later. And the thing is, people have wondered, was this a hate crime? Um, and according to Lukee Forbes and the prosecutors, no, it was just a random act of violence because they were motivated just by wanting to rob me of well, everything I had on my person, pretty much. And but I sort of don't I don't think I think that even if they wouldn't label it a hate crime, I think it absolutely was a result of me being gay because if you didn't know this, gay people are preyed on all the time in this country by criminals. They think that we're easy pickings. We can't fight back. We can't stand up for ourselves or anything. Although they wouldn't even give me a chance to fight back, beating me with a tree limb and all that. Um, but and I'm glad that Libby Post agrees with me, in the sense that she found the working family's endorsement of Lukee Forbes really troublesome, pretty much, and inconsistent with the fact that the Working Families Party has traditionally, well, historically, they supported the gay community. So how could they now be backing somebody who committed a violent crime against somebody who I'm sure they saw as easy pickings because he's just a gay guy on his home from Pride. He's not gonna, you know, fight back or anything. So let's rob him. And yeah, and so yeah, I think it was motivated by my sexuality, even though I don't suspect that they were uh three guys just, oh, look at that gay guy, he should burn in hell, let's go send him there. And then that would and that's not what motivated their attack as far as I know. So I understand why people are not calling it a hate crime, but at the same time it was absolutely related to me being gay because yeah, because I was targeted as easy prey that way. And moving on, let's get to a little of what they really did to me. I continue to suffer from memory issues and language issues with every single language I speak. I'm sure anyone who has seen my YouTube videos has noticed me often speaking very slowly and getting tangential with my speech and uh, forgetting things, blanking on words. I have a constant like tip of the tongue syndrome where it's always like I almost have the right word, but it doesn't come out because I don't know, because brain damage. Anyway, and this has been a nightmare for somebody who is a linguist. I have been teaching foreign languages at the university level for my whole career, and obviously, having language problems, this has pretty much brought my career into shambles. And um, it's not just the memory issues or the language issues. It's also like a lot of people who have sustained frontal lobe damage from a traumatic brain injury. I have serious impulse control problems, and I react a little too heavily. I'm super short tempered. I just, freak out on people. And I don't know if you know the feeling, but for nearly the last 15 years, I have woken up on the wrong side of the bed every single day of my life. And it's a constant struggle for me every time I'm interacting with anybody at all, um, not to lash out at them and not, it's yeah, this is an every single day struggle for me and every single day thing I have to deal with. And since we have sort of, well, family history involving a little dementia, I expect my brain injury to lead to early dementia as well. And and so it's not just the brain injury symptoms from uh, what they did to me, it's other post-traumatic stress symptoms that are ugly. And this is why this is part of why I'm unhappy with Lukee Forbes, with his rhetoric, with his what he's been saying about this, like why I don't feel like he was really admitting to having done anything wrong. Um, like he's forgetting that I was the damn victim in that thing. He was a perpetrator. Because well, especially back in his trial where I did have to testify and everything, he didn't seem remorseful at all. He asked the judge why he had to become another statistic, which I'm sure through. Sure he was feeling that way at the time, but you know, take responsibility for what you did anyway. And so, and he's claiming he's just becoming another statistic and he shouldn't be here. This isn't fair. But he was caught using my credit card at the mall. So it's not just when they beat me down and robbed me that day. That wasn't the only, that wasn't the only, well, crime he was committing against me. He's then going and buying stuff from, I think the store was Lids. I don't remember exactly. It was a long time ago. And, you know, remember brain injury. Um, and so he was caught that way. See, the cops, they left that credit card open. The guys had robbed me of all the cash I had on me and my license and my debit card and a credit card, my favorite tobacco pouch that I had picked up in Guatemala anyway. Um, and so the bank shut down my debit card and all that, but they left the credit card open. Just in the hopes of a way of catching them if and seeing exactly who did this and all that. And yeah, that's how he got caught. He was using my credit card at the mall. So I feel like that pretty much well shows that he was not just a victim here, he was a perpetrator. And yeah, and it's not just, and I understand this when he was 16 on trial over this. I understand why a teenager wouldn't reach the adult, you know, level of understanding of the consequences of their own actions and their level of responsibility in it. But his language still seems to suggest that he's a victim too. Um, he on his webpage and his campaign materials and stuff, he's saying that he was caught in the school to prison pipeline and he's seen firsthand how the system fails those in poverty, which I don't disagree that this society, this country, and our criminal justice system especially fail people who are in poverty. But by the way, speaking of poverty, I've been living in poverty ever since my career went to shit because of what you did to me, Lukee. Anyway, and he also claims, well, in the interview with Churchill, anyway, I suppose, he claimed that he had overturned the conviction. He had won and overturned the conviction on appeal, which isn't the whole entire story. Because actually, it's not like the conviction was overturned over prosecutorial misconduct that was so egregious that they then dismissed the charges with prejudice and he gets out and free. No. Um, the original conviction was overturned. It was reversed, but he was still on the hook, still being charged with crimes. And one funny thing about this is why um, they decided to overturn the appeal, well, reverse the conviction in that case, was because the prosecutor's closing argument was really, well, really heavy-handed and really hammering home a few things. And that's where they found he was not fair to Lukee Forbes during the trial. But for me, that's kind of funny because when I heard the language in his closing argument, that was the first sense that I had. That's the first realization I had. The first time I noticed that anybody had even read my victim impact statement, because a lot of the language he used in that closing argument was a lot of the same language I used in my victim impact statement. So I thankful to the ADA for doing that. But still really upset that the heavy-handed closing argument meant, uh-oh, might have to go through another trial. I might have to testify again. Well, luckily that didn't happen because Forbes pleaded guilty to felony assault. So he's a convicted felon still. And he received a sentence that was roughly equivalent to the first, I think. Instead of 3 1/3 to 10, it was more like 3 to 9, something like that. It was about equivalent, but that right there is why he's already out of prison and the other two are not. The other two guys are not. It's part of it anyway. And this right here is where I want to say shame on the Working Families Party of Albany. Um, well, the new Working Families Party, the New York Working Families Party, because I think this is good in the sense of they believe in second chances and restorative justice, but restorative justice, the idea behind that would be to help make him whole and make me whole too, right? The victim and all that. So this is not restorative justice, in my opinion. And so she's all proud. The party's proud to back him. I say, shame on you, unless you're also proud of disrespecting his victim and other victims of violent crimes in Albany. So if that was your goal, then good job, good backing, good endorsement, you know. Um, but of course, if you did still care at all about the gay community or about violent crime victims in Albany, then what are you thinking? Anyway. Hmm. So unfortunately, Forbes is also running as a Democrat. And because I don't live in Ward 3, this means that I will not be able to go out and vote against him in the Democratic primary. Because because actually the ward where my yeah, yeah, it's a different city council seat. It's a different ward. So I can't vote against him, but I hope that the well, I'm hoping people might share this video on social media to help get the message to some of the voters in Ward 3 in Albany so that they will try, to remember all the victims of violent crimes in Albany. And that is a serious public safety problem that we still need to keep working on and making it better. So, how about maybe respect us all by not elevating someone who is the perpetrator of such a violent crime to a position of public office, Anyway, and so what I am glad about is that Joyce Love, the person who currently holds the Ward 3 council seat, that she is actually endorsing somebody else, Arthur Lumpkin. So I'm throwing my full support behind Arthur Lumpkin too, even though, again, I won't be voting in that race because wrong ward for me, but still same city, same community. Um, and yeah, so I'm hoping, yeah, that Lumpkin will win the election overall, the general election, not just the primary, so that Forbes is out of politics, at least for now in Albany. And what I'm so upset with the Working Families Party for is that their endorsement of Lukee Forbes certainly helped him out in this race. It certainly, yeah, made his chances better. And so I'm not sure if I'm ever willing to vote that line again, at least not for local races anyway, but I'm still gonna, well, do some sorting out and decide about that. That should probably be more based on the candidates. And so we're getting closer to the end of the article now, and I love Chris Churchill, the author of this article, for posing this question: would elevating Forbes disrespect Lou and victims more generally? Um, Even if, we're trying to forgive someone who has been convicted, he has paid a debt to society and he's trying to grow and become better, and all that is good. But for me, I cannot freaking forget the impact that what he did to me had on my life, because it's still happening every single day, um, every single hour of every single day. Anyway, and so yeah, and I like the question he asked at the end. Well, two more questions. Should someone involved in something so heinous be granted a position of trust 15 years later? And how much can we forgive, even if we resolve not to forget? So again, to Albany Ward 3 voters, please do not forget me and other victims of violent crimes in Albany. I say that should be your first priority. And I also like the way how he ended this article, saying that what cannot be debated is the horror of what happened to me, who was just trying to make his way home, right? Or my way home, rather. And so, again, I already mentioned a few symptoms of the brain injury, but that's after, well, all these years. Originally, what happened is when I woke out of the coma, I had to learn how to walk and talk again. In the sense, remember being head to toe. There was well, a sprained ankle among a lot of other problems, but so walking again was also a thing I had to learn to do. And my language, I had no language. And the fact is, before the brain injury, I knew how to speak four languages, and all of a sudden, none. And it was more like all the languages were sort of in there together, garbled up, but um, I can separate out one language from another or anything like that. Although, from the bit of memories I do have, I think I was understanding people fine when they were talking to me. So that's better than some end up with after brain injuries. But I myself couldn't get out the words. So, and I do remember also several times people would ask me a question, and I would have this sort of not real sign language going on, but sort of signing out my answers. And I remember being how frustrated I was when they're not understanding what I mean. Anyway, so there was all that going on, and luckily I went through, well, enough therapy to get better in a lot of ways. Let me just talk, just mention that in addition to the neurological surgery, brain surgery and all that I had to undergo. Uh, there was also neuropsychiatric therapy, neuropsychological therapy, cognitive therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy, and speech, language, and linguistic cognitive therapy. It was a lot of kinds of therapies. So I was lucky that I had health insurance at that point, right? I don't know how people without health insurance would recover. They wouldn't get all the therapies I did to help me recover, that's for sure. So I can't myself blessed for that. And I managed to be quite functional despite permanent injury and disability. I feel lucky for that. But there's also, I mentioned earlier, a post traumatic stress element of this. It's not just the brain injury, um, it's a lot of things impacting my life. Like one thing you might not know about me is well, during the COVID pandemic, when we were practicing social distancing and staying away, not being in crowds, all that, I was like, phew, thank God, finally, people are gonna stop trying to shake my hands and hug me and crap. Because I, ever since that day, which by the way, we're talking, that was June 13th, 2010, was the day that happened to me. Um, and since that day, I don't ever want anybody to touch me at all. I mean, I don't like being hugged. I don't like shaking hands. I don't like even people within my personal space. And this means, as you can imagine, I have not dated or not even considered dating. Um, I have practically been abstinent because I don't want anybody to put their damn hands on me. And so imagine how far dating or getting into a relationship is from my mind every single day. And that is, well, dysfunctional. Um, but that's just, yeah, that's just part of it. And as I mentioned too, a lot of my personal relationships, personal friendships, and all that and professional relationships and that too have gotten ruined because I have a short temper. Um, and that's again related to the frontal lobe damage of the brain injury, but people don't really care about that, about, oh, he's disabled, let's cut him some slack. No, because what it comes across is just part of my personality. That's me now. That's something that, yeah, that I can't get around. It's part of my personality. So again, um, I want to ask everybody watching this video to please try to share it on social media to help reach Albany voters, to help make sure they don't make the wrong decision by elevating a someone who committed a very violent crime and left someone else with permanent injury and disability and post-traumatic stress, um, about not elevating him to a position of public service. And if you're not motivated by my plight, how about the fact that let's not give an ex-con public salary and taxpayer dollars, because it's not like those city council member positions are volunteer. They're low pay because they're considered part-time, but still that's public tax dollars that's paying their checks. So let's not do that for him. Anyway, so I'm sorry about how upsetting this video was compared to all my others, but I had to get this off my chest. And thank you again to Chris Churchill for writing that article, that column. And again, if you want to check out the column yourself, it was it's the Churchill column on Saturday, March 1st, 2025. And that's on the Times Union. And so I'm sure they still have it available on their website. So please do give this video a thumbs up, maybe even add some comments to help push this video's message through the YouTube algorithms. And please do share this on social media because I would like this guy to get the hell out of local politics so I never have to get triggered by seeing his face on the news or the paper or hearing his name ever again. But also, I think it's important to that we respect the fact that there's a lot of victims of violent crimes in Albany, and it would be disrespectful to any of us to elevate someone who committed such a crime to a position in public office. So that's what I got to say. And so thanks everybody for watching. And next time I promise to have a lot more fun for you in the next video. And so until then, catch you around next time. Bye bye.